Let's look into the magnitude, aka the brightness of stars. And then also distance may have things that are important to think about as well. Let's just start with the sun here so we can understand what we're talking about. Let me move my face. All right, so if you click on the different either stars or the planetary bodies, you will see magnitude come up here. And so the sun's magnitude is negative 26.73. So the thing to remember about magnitude is the lower the number, the brighter the object is that we're looking at. So obviously the sun is going to be quite literally the brightest thing within the sky. And so that is why we have it at negative 26.73. Whereas if we look at a planet like Jupiter, it'll be at negative 1.86. So still significant, but not obviously as bright as the sun is going to be. So the theory is that the brighter something is, or the less magnitude that it has, or registers the negative magnitudes is going to be the brighter, is going to mean that it gives off more energy. At least that's the theory, right? So, for example, the sun would give off a lot of energy. Venus gives off a ton of energy at negative 3.78, whereas Mars is going to be 1.13. So that's going to be not as bright as the sun or Venus. Saturn we have at 1.18. So if a star or a planet is visible, it is going to be above, or I'm sorry, below a 6.5. So let's take, let's see, one of the bigger stars in Beta Trianguli. So this magnitude is 3.06. Whereas like this lighter one up here is going to be 6.06. So hopefully you're starting to understand, right? So this one is magnitude Hamal is going to be 2.17. So that is going to be brighter than Beta Trianguli at 3.06. So again, the lower the magnitude, the brighter the star. So it's a little counterintuitive, but hopefully that makes sense. So star or planet. And then for example, like let's look at Pluto. So Pluto is super far out, doesn't give off much energy. The magnitude is 15.48. So when it comes to astronomic astrology, things we want to consider is going to be the magnitude, how bright something is, but also its distance. Okay, so AU is stands for astronomical unit. So each astronomical unit is going to be 93 million miles or 150 million kilometers, depending on which system you like to use there. So Pluto is obviously very, very, very far away. Keep this number in mind, 34.94, whereas the sun is going to be only one away, right? So obviously, if something is closer to us and its magnitude is way brighter, then it's likely going to have more of an impact on us. So, if somebody's like, sun sign astrology, look at your Pluto, it's like, okay, yeah, but we're getting so much energy from our sun placement. Why would you even consider ignoring that? Other things to keep in mind would also be size, I think matters for sure. So, like the sun in comparison to Mercury, our sun is going to have more energy just naturally. So, when it comes to the brightest planet, then we will be looking at Venus. That's going to give off the most energy. That's the most visible in the night sky. Will always be Venus when it comes to the planets. But actually, the moon is pretty bright as well. It does depend, obviously, which phase of the moon it's in, whether it is a full moon or a new moon. A full moon will always be the brightest, but the magnitude here is negative 12.58. So that is going to be very, very, very bright in comparison to, let's say, this star, which is 2.8. Okay. So, for example, like Arcturus here is 0.11. So that is a very bright star. And like you can literally tell, right? Like you can look at the stars in Virgo and you can be like, okay, I wonder which one has the biggest magnitude. Probably the biggest star, Spica at 0.89, right? And so there are certain stars that are going to hold a little bit more energy than other stars, like Antares 0.97. And then also something to consider is how close are they to the sun's ecliptic path? So, and a lot of this is theoretical as far as like how we really want to interpret for it. But for example, let's say that this person's Virgo moon, okay, like yeah, they might have some like Draco alignments, but Draco is so far away. Whereas if they had like an Arcturus or a Boots alignment, it might be a lot closer, so it might impact them more. So these are things to consider, things to think about. Hopefully that part makes sense to you. I highly recommend clicking around, seeing, you know, what's close, which is far away, and this is all in relation to us back on Earth, okay? So, like Sirius, we talk about that when we talk about Canis Major. That is one of the brightest stars in the sky at negative 1.09. So, yeah, I would go through and determine which stars, like, actually, it'd be interesting to go out at night and see if you can identify any of these stars and then relate it back to the sun's ecliptic path and like the star constellations of the zodiac because it's very, very interesting, but can be a little bit overwhelming if you've never worked with these numbers before. All right, next up, we're going to go over how to determine rising sign, and then we will be moving on finally to the archetypes and the mythologies behind all of these amazing constellations within the zodiac and what they are aligned to. All right.